It's 4:20. Let's get high. And talk about holes. So I learned something very cool recently from my favorite book, the Zohar, and I wanted to just share it. Seemed like a good time to do this. Yes. So what I learned was that, let me explain a little background. In the Hebrew language, feminine is called nukva, from the word nekev, which means hole, which is, in our culture, it's a crude way to describe woman. Like in the Beatles song, they wanted to count how many holes there were in some sheer stockings. Then they can know how many holes would fit into the Albert Hall, meaning how many girls would go there when they sang. But to find such a thing in the Zohar, and actually, other places in the Torah, there must be some deeper meaning in this. And certainly there is. And that's what I always kind of wondered about this. And Torah's kind of like that. You can hold questions for a long time, and suddenly you'll come upon something that answers the question. Now, obviously God, who's not physical or spiritual, has no gender. But in order to be able to communicate with creation, takes upon the gender of man. And as receiver, all of creation is woman. And that's called a nekev to the creator. Why is it nekev? Because when God created creation, the first thing he had to do was make a hole in the hard light, so there would be a place for creation. Before that, there wasn't time and there wasn't place. But once there was a nekev, as called, what's it called? I can't remember, but I forget what the name in Hebrew is, but it's sort of like the abyss. And it's known, have you ever seen like a map of the sun and the planets? So you got the sun here and the planets go around, but that's not really what's happening, because the sun is actually moving at a very fast pace. And as a result, that it's not like this two-dimensional thing, but it's three-dimensional, and things are going all sorts of ways. And they have it like on the internet. You can find it like it's sort of a, it's really cool. It's really, we're dancing through this empty space that the entire universe is falling into. And what is this empty space? This is the hole that that God created for creation. So everything within that is part of the whole. But it's much more than that when it comes down to our earth. And our earth is the lowest place in creation. Therefore, it's the center of creation, because God wants to be known and low. So that's here. Ain't nothing lower than this. And each of us is made out of earth, made out of the elements that our parents ingested to make the seed of man and to make the egg of woman and to nourish the baby and to get born. And this is a piece of earth. As we see that when we die and the angel comes and cuts the cord that comes into the right side of our brain, that conveys the light of the soul, which is carved out of the sun and is up in heaven, to sever. And then the body just, stops seeing, stops breathing, stops working. And and the consciousness goes up with the soul. The people who have near death experiences. Some people have near life experiences. Some people have near death experiences, and they all talk about seeing this light, and they think it's the light of God or the light of heaven. It's the light of their soul, and that's what draws them back. And it's hard to get all the way back to one's soul. We have to go through a lot of things, but there's places we hang out between incarnations, places in our solar system. Anyways, not to get too far flung, that that anyways, we're all made out of a certain amount of earth, and that made a hole in the earth. We had a certain amount of ground and made a hole in the earth. So in a sense, each one of us is really a hole. We look ourselves as the projection out, but God sees us as the whole. In other words, there's a hole in the earth. And where is that hole? Where'd that earth go? Well, it became a human being. It's walking around on the earth. So God sees each person as a whole. And what is a whole? So at first, when the hole is first made, it's a pit. And there's nothing in it. And if there remains nothing in it, so then, these really noxious animals come and begin to inhabit the hole. But the opposite of that, of being empty, it makes this point in the Torah when it says they threw their brother Yosef into the pit and it didn't have any water. Why does it have to say it didn't have any water? To say that if it's an empty pit without water, it has wild animals. And so it is inside the human being also, that if the brain has nothing in it, then pretty soon you start thinking really stupid thoughts, because our environment around us is really kind of stupid. And, unless you're out in the country or something, and, and it starts affecting the way a person thinks. If you don't person doesn't use their brain, so their environment kind of thinks for them, and they do whatever everyone else does. But and so it really, it's empty except for these animals that inhabit one's brain and make them do this or that. And so the antidote of that is water. And the thing with water is that all water, there's a saying that all the water goes to the sea, but the sea never fills up. What's going on? So we all know the reason why. Because the water evaporates from the sea and rains upon the land, and the ocean draws every drop of water. It will even pull a drop of water up a hill. See, rivers that flow up, because that's the closest way to the sea. And that's the kind of attraction that the ocean has to every drop of water in the ground. And when that drop of water comes into the pit, meaning like the first thing that the child does when the child first becomes is born, is want to take in fluid, milk. And when the child pees, the parent is very happy. Baruch Hashem, everything's working. So right from the beginning, this liquid is transversing through the child and through the whole life. We constantly have to drink. We don't drink, we die. And we're taking this water through us. We're keeping ourselves in what we do, what we think. And things are necessary uh, for our life, everything that we do gets sort of transmitted into the water, and then the water goes out of us and continues flowing to the sea. And this provides for a refinement of the water. That's how water gets refined. It flows through the earth and becomes a better water. And that's what each human being is supposed to be. Each one of us is supposed to be. We are a pit. We were taken from the earth. We made a hole in the earth, and we're walking around on the earth, and the water we take in, the water and the food. But I mean, water is really much more essential than food is. And the water that we take in, that we purify like life around us, until we do that so much that we become full of water, and we are even overflowing our banks. We have so much water, we want to give it to other people. Here, have some of my water. And most people are the other, that they're collecting, in their pit, they're collecting money, and the money never overflows. It compacted, it never overflows. They never have enough. But water is a very different thing. The pit was made to hold water, not to hold money. And so people who use that water throughout their lives and become better human beings, refining the water until the pit becomes a bear. A boar is a pit, and a bear is a spring, a well. So it becomes a bear, like a bear Sheva, like the place of seven wells. And anyways, that it becomes water. It becomes a bear, and people can come and drink from it. And these are people who have like abilities, like entertainers. They love to entertain, and they're just bubbling over with this energy and abilities, and I just want to make everyone happy. It's pretty cool. And I mean, we do that in so many ways. There's so many different ways of wisdom, as the Rambam says, that the Rambam lived about 1,000 years ago, and he said he compiled all the laws. See, there's 613 commandments, but they're laws like really without end. And he compiled all the laws, and in the middle of his book called Yad Chazaka, the strong hand, because there's 14 of them, and a hand is Yad, which is 14. And that he said that if you want to be wise, find something that you like, do it a lot, and you'll become wise. Hopefully, something you found is something that you can share with society, so you maybe make a living from it. That's the best thing. We really, being free is free to do the work we love. And if we're not free to do that, we're not free. It really bothered me back with when W. Bush was president, that I noticed they started talking about freedom, redefining freedom, that America was the place where you're free to come here and make money. And I don't think that that's what our founding fathers, that they're always bringing up, that I don't think that's what they were, I don't think they thought freedom was that. It's true, they were free to come here and really steal the land from the indigenous people. And they did it freely. But after them, they didn't let anyone else do that. There was a guy, I don't know if I don't remember the name of this stone, but yeah, I don't know. If I can't remember it, I don't know what I should say. There was a general, maybe I'll remember it. There was a general after the end of the Civil War, see, and he bought a piece of property up in New York, the Herkimer. And it was full of what we know as Herkimer diamonds. But he got, all the soldiers, not all, he got a bunch of soldiers who had survived the war, and he got them to work on his property, and he paid them all in diamonds, because these were Herkimer diamonds. They're not worth very much. And as a result, they named the whole county after him. Herkimer County in New York, which is, just says everything for itself. Anyways, so I wanted to share this bit of information about each one of us being a hole dug out of the earth, and we're walking around, and just like earth on the earth is a pathway for water, so too each individual is a pathway for water. And person can foul the water, poison the water. A person can live a life. If you live a life where you just take in and don't give out, pretty soon the water just disappears and a person becomes dry, because we're meant to be like a conduit, just like each generation is a conduit between the two, the one before and the one after. And we're all taking this water to the sea because God wants to be known and low. And the lowest thing that people did, that's noted in the Torah, it was the water carriers. Because that's all hard work, man. Water is like the heaviest thing there is. Well, maybe not the heaviest, but I mean, it's very dense. It's very heavy. And those were the two things. There were two things: carrying the water and carrying the wood. These were, these are heavy things to do, and one has to work really hard to do it. And everyone in their life, you can't get someone else to carry your water. You got to carry your own water, and it's heavy and it's hard, but that's what we're supposed to do. And to become a well, they call it a spring of living water. That's like an ambition. People say, "Well, you want to be a lawyer or a doctor?" And I would be a spring of living water. And that should be one of the things we can strive for. I once knew this guy, and he was telling me that you know these funny guys on the road. But he was telling me how when he was in high school, they gave him a list of all the different occupations. And he read through them all. And he didn't want to be any of them, and he felt like, who am I? And the truth is, I actually was a very talented artist. And that's what he should be doing for his life. And this is not so far fetched. In European countries, you can go in, you're going for welfare and stuff. You don't have a job, but there you can go and you say, I want to be a writer. I want to be an artist. And they will pay you a certain amount of money, not because you're no good and can't get a job, but because you want to give to society in a different way. You're not so interested in being part of a group, of a team. You want to be independent, and you have this dream that you want to work on, and the government will pay you. I mean, that seems like a logical thing to do. Because without that, the person would really struggle and probably wouldn't be able to really work on their dream, which might be something very valuable to society. Nobody knows, sort of what's good or bad. I mean, we know what's good or bad, but I mean, but I mean, in the different endeavors that we do, we don't know if this is really going to be something that's going to help the world or not. But either way, it's all like water passing through the human being. And whether we try and fail or we try and succeed, the water gets purified. The person becomes wiser as a result of experience, because it's experience which makes us wise. And when our experience are limited by, media and jobs that take all the time, and different ways of standard, entertainment, and everything else is blocked out, then we become sort of like a dam or a cistern that no one can get to, and it's just eventually it just kind of pollutes itself because it's not running anywhere. And it's not doing anything. It's just for its own good. Anyways, mm, I have a question here. Asks me, uh, what about the caves? I'm not sure what caves you're talking about, but there's lots of caves that are always mentioned, particularly about the Zohar. And the thing is, I think that people have to understand to make sense out of this that these caves are not necessarily terrestrial caves. I mean, certainly they had many caves in Israel. Uh, yeah, and there's many stories about the caves. They take a lot of place in in the stories in the Torah. But there's also caves through the heavens. It was known that people before the flood, they knew the pathways through the heavens. Well, people had a way become so ephemeral that they could actually squeeze into these pathways that aren't yet in the heavens. But let me explain it like this: that see, the heavens start between the earth and the moon. That's when heaven starts. So all that area, like the place where we put satellites and all that stuff, this is really Earth. It's part of Earth, but it's ephemeral Earth. And there are pathways through this ephemeral Earth. And people who understand these pathways, they can navigate through them. And that's why you see, I mean, everyone like reads the Torah, they went here, they went there. I mean, it's a whole thing. Particularly a whole bunch of people with you to actually go anywhere. Like you can go somewhere in your mind, but to actually physically go somewhere, that takes a lot of effort. But many of these people, particularly Abraham and Yitzchak, the fathers and these great, really high people, they were able to live there. And there were people when you were sent into like, kind of the word, not excommunication, maybe it is, when you're sent away like that, that's where they had to go. They hovered above the earth and they weren't allowed down in the earth. And and a lot of the Torah doesn't appear to make sense because the things they say just couldn't be on the physical earth, but they can be in this other area, which is still earth, but it's the more the ephemeral earth. And obvious, that's where people were hanging out and not needing a whole lot to exist and being able to have a very, good life there. And but they come down to the earth sometimes, sort of like going out. Hey, let's go down to the earth. Yeah, see, Avram talks like that. Then when they first come here, he says, there's a drought. Let's go down to Egypt. Let's check it out. And he plays this trick with the Egyptians, and he tells his wife, you're really beautiful, and I'm going to put you in this box to try to like hide you from them, and they're going to see you, and they're going to take you to the king. And as a result, we're going to get a lot of money. They went out and play a trick, and they did. Oh, he wasn't worried about his wife, not at all. He knew that Shekhinah was with her, and she had all these powers. And so as soon as they saw her, they said, "No, we got to take her to the king." And they took her to the king. And Avram said, "No, she's my daughter. She's my sister. Go ahead, take her to the king." Took her to the king, and the king immediately, got eyes on her. Gonna have a nice night tonight. But she sees the angels, and she tells the angel to hit him, and hit that one, and hit that one, and hit that guard, and pretty soon they're all unable to have sex, and they're having some real problems. Until Pharaoh understands that this must not be someone's sister, but someone's wife. And he calls Abraham and he says, you played a trick on us. Here's some money. Get out of town. So, so anyways, when you read the Torah with this kind of understanding that, that there's just so much more to the story than what appears. And that's why, in reading the Torah or in translating the Torah, by translating the exact words, the literal translation is not the simple understanding of the text. It has to be translated according to the simple understanding that does not contradict or cause contradiction in the future in the oral Torah at any way. And so that's what prophecy is. And that's why the words of prophecy are very particular. They never change. There's ways, there's rules in writing it down where, that we know that we have, the original text. Because all the oral tradition is connected to that. And that's what the Torah is. It's written on 4 levels, and the first level is the written word, and the next 3 levels, the written word is considered masculine, and it doesn't change, and the next 3 levels become feminine, and they constantly change, and that is the law and the exposition of the law and the Zohar, which is brilliance. And these are all marked, in books, but not actually in the Torah as the Nukudot, which convey pronunciation, and the trope, which conveys inflection, and the Zohar, little crowns upon various letters, which conveys the Zohar. And the entire Torah is considered water, in that it comes from a very a high place in heaven, but it comes down to the earth, and just like water, it remains exactly the same way that it came from heaven is the same way that it is upon the earth. And water is a blessing, and from water grows pleasure. That there's a moistness in life which is pleasure, and it's in all things. When fruit dries out, it's not so pleasurable. When people get old and dry out, they're not so pleasurable, because it's the water. And there's times when we're just young and strong and can drink a lot. People drink alcohol, but also, people drink water. We drink water from the earth. We give water back to the earth. And in the middle, the question is, what do we do with the water? Who are we? What are we doing with our lives? What are we doing that's going to make the world better? Because when we leave this world and go to the next world, that's what they want to know. What did you do to make the world better? And if a person says, well, I was happy. Okay, good. It's good to have happy people, but that's not really why you're in the world. And so that's why it's very good. Love is a very important thing. And even more important than loving a person is loving what one does in the world. Because people come and go. But what a person does in the world, you can live with that for one's whole life. That you can be married to and never divorced, and never separated. And I guess you can be separated if you do certain anyways, but you're never divorced from it. That's your thing. And it's important to have a thing. Everyone in the world has a thing. God created them with a thing, and to take one's thing into the world and make something good out of it with their little hole in the earth that they're created with, and will go back after 70 years or more or whatever, and we'll go to heaven and have to account for ourselves. And the main thing in going to heaven is we don't want to be embarrassed. So if a person ran after money or women or alcohol or whatever, or just didn't care and had no compassion, in heaven, they get a body which is the same body, similar to the same body that we have here. But everyone can see through it. It's like translucent. And everyone can see the hypocrite and the liar and the mean and the cruel. And it's all there. No one can trick anyone else. And can trick anyone in heaven. Anyways, I guess that's it for today. Again, uh, I invite you to go to my website, dovidhouse.com, and buy a book, make a review. That'd be well appreciated, and my books really have new knowledge in them. And yeah, I'm not going to do this tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to do it already. I'm going to do it, when I feel like I have something nice to share with people, or if people ask me questions, I feel I can answer. I'll try to do it, but I don't want to get too, obsessive compulsive about this. Anyways, thank you for listening, and have a great day. God bless you. Be good. Be healthy. See you later, man.